Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Breakthroughs in Education event. I'm Diane Whitehead. I'm the Executive Director of ACEI. And today we have with us Shelley Berc. And Shelley is the Director and co-founder of the Creativity Workshop. It'd be nice for you to take a look at her bio, which we'll have available for you, and to learn a little bit more about the Creativity Workshop and the types of programs that they offer. So today we're very proud to have Shelley with us, and we're going to be talking about the challenges of teaching today, unlocking creative potential for teachers, allowing them to explore their inner creativity, and fostering creativity and imagination as well in their students. So all of this creativity falls under the innovation umbrella. So we're pleased to have you with us today, Shelley. We'd like Shelley just to give a little bit of an introduction about what the interview is going to be about today and sort of setting the stage a little bit for us. So please, Shelley, go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Diane. Today, mostly what I want to talk about is the innate creativity that all people have inside them and how they can use that in their teaching. It's not normally encouraged in teaching because, well, there's so much that one has to cover in a day. But it seems to me, and it seemed to me in the 25 years that I've taught teachers, that when teachers feel more creative, when they feel like they give themselves the permission to have new ideas or put old ideas together in new ways, or to individualize some of their ideas so they fit the sensibility of every group they're teaching, then the teaching is better and the teacher is more inspired. I would have to say that an inspired teacher creates an inspiring class. I also want to say that when I talk about creativity, I am not talking about art. Art is a byproduct of creativity. Creativity is a way of looking at the world where it is not impossible to find 30 different ways to use a paper clip, or to look at the skyline of a city and suddenly see a bunch of dinosaurs, or to turn a piece of paper upside down that has a photograph on it, and when you look at it upside down, you actually see different things inside of it, or you change in your mind how the lines are divided, et cetera, et cetera. This is an innate skill of human beings. It's probably, in terms of what anthropologists say, it's probably a good survival tool. Meaning, if you only have flight or fight response, and if you only have just what everybody's told you how things are done, and you confront a new situation, none of those instincts or skills are going to help you. What's going to help you is taking a very fast look at the picture in front of you and saying, wow, what if I go around the saber-toothed tiger? Or what if I jump up and make myself look bigger? Or what if I disguise myself as something worse than a saber-toothed tiger? That might be how I get away. And when you think about survival tools, creativity is extremely important. When we think about going forward in this 21st century and beyond, paradigms are changing so fast that if we teach someone how to do one job, chances are within 2 years, everything that job entails will either be gone or be so different that how we've taught someone how to do something, the steps, the memorization, the applications, they're not going to be worthwhile anymore. They won't apply. So how do we teach kids to be, one, creative thinkers, meaning they can look at something that they know how to do one way and take it apart like an erector set and put it together in a new way? Or how do they come up with new ideas altogether? And that implies a love for lifelong learning. And the last thing I want to say about all this is that in order to encourage lifelong learning in not only children but adults, there has to be an incentive other than money or making things that scare us. We have so many things. Children start very young being scared, well, if I don't do this well, I won't get into this class and I'll have no future and I will starve on the street. It might be a good way to flood somebody with the ability to do things in the short term, but in the long term, it exhausts the adrenal glands, literally. What encourages people, according to psychologists, anthropologists, sociologists, is something so simple and something so precious and something that we don't give anybody enough time to do, or any time to do. It is play.
Yes.
Play. So those are kind of the issues that I want to cover today. And I'm going to be covering it primarily with the teachers themselves, because if they don't give it to themselves, if their administrators do not give them permission to experiment and play and dream, and I'm not talking all day, but I'm saying at least 20 minutes a day to have time that is exploratory, they will not be able to teach these skills to students. And the students will not be able to keep up and stay healthy in the world to come.
Yeah. No, thank you, Shelley. I agree with you. This idea of having exploratory time, it's sort of at the heart of innovation, and innovation comes from creativity. So it's critically important. So thank you for that. Throughout this event, we're exploring the importance of innovation in achieving access, equity, and quality in education around the globe. We're at a point in history where we need to take a really critical look at how we meet the needs of all students. How do you think we'll be able to make changes to kind of get to to what we need?
Well, excuse me, a lot of change comes again from looking at things in different ways. And if you're looking at creating lifelong learners and you're looking at keeping young people exploratory, then teaching to the test either has to change or go away, or creating tests that are looking for curious, exploratory people. Kids that question things. The Socratic method is really something that people don't talk about anymore, but we were taught through Socratic method to challenge things, not always to want to know the right answer, but to question the answers. It not only makes us better at being able to solve new problems, because we're questioning even what the problem is. Maybe it's not the problem that everybody thinks it is. Maybe it's something altogether different. It makes us better citizens. If we know how to question what people say, what's on the media, what we read in the various papers, it's not just a matter of everything is sort of possible and there are facts that are not facts, but how to question what people call differences of opinion. How to really understand what is a real argument and what is something that's just being used to manipulate people. And that's as we learn now, as things go forward and what we're learning about the manipulation that's been going on social media, an absolutely vital part of not only having a job in the future, but having a democracy in the future. And that comes from, if you go to the root of how you get to critical thinking, the root of it is saying, I don't know if that fact makes sense. I'm going to question it and I'm going to explore it and I'm going to find out how to analyze it. I'm curious about this. I'm not going to just take it as fact because so-and-so has said it and they're my teacher or my boss or the head of the free world. I'm going to use my intelligence and my gut feeling.
And that idea of questioning is really the heart of education, isn't it? The ability to be able to learn, to acquire knowledge, but to question as well. But today teachers and administrators are living in a world that's just surrounded, aren't they, by standardized testing and decreased funding and overcrowded classrooms, and they're facing so much. It's such a challenging environment for them, and it doesn't provide a lot of room for creativity. So how do you kind of encourage not only teachers but administrators as well to find their creativity and voice?
Well, that's one of the reasons that we have been so passionate about teaching teachers about their innate creativity. And the point that I like to make is that we are intrinsically so happy to be creative that, and I know this from experience, in 10 minutes you can get somebody to be very imaginative. We do a lot of work in guided visualization, and we'll take them on the equivalent of a hero's journey. But we don't fill in much of the story. We create the playground, and then people fill in the details, or creating imaginary landscapes made out of numbers, or whatever is possible to give people sort of an archetypal playground in which to explore new ideas, just with their mind. We want to take away a little bit, actually, some of the technology that we've been pushing for so long, and get people back to their source, which is here and in their heart. And how do we look at things? How do we play with things? I call it creativity literacy, to make people creatively literate. And actually, the best way to do it, I always tell people in interviews when they ask me, well, how do you get people to be creative? Creativity isn't going to take us very far. We have to know all these facts. They said, well, I'm not saying you're not supposed to know facts, and you've certainly had enough education that you also know how to analyze ideas. What I am saying that everybody has 10 minutes a day or 15 minutes a day to play with your senses, listen to the world around you, look at what's in front of you as you get from point A to point B. You know how much we miss just walking down the street? We don't see anything. We're just thinking about what's next. We're not living as, you might say, in the moment. So these are all skills that you can learn, and they're not skills that are arduous. They're fun. I've noticed that really we do a few of these exercises, and this isn't to push our exercises, it's more about the amazing thing that if you work with people for 15 minutes and you have them writing and drawing, going back and forth, stimulating different parts of their brain for 15 minutes, and you set up almost a fairy tale, say. In 15 minutes, they've gone into a whole world. I haven't seen one in person that isn't able to do it. And when we finish the exercise, and we stop and I say to everybody, look where you can go in 15 minutes. And every single person goes, oh my God.
Yes.
So I would set up series of prompts for people to play with every day. I would do something like what 3M did for years. Every week they had a couple of hours at the end of the day, or every day they had about half an hour, I think, to have laboratory time, play. And I'm talking about the teachers, not the students.
Yes.
I'm talking about getting teachers to a place where they feel it's okay for at least 15 minutes a day not to know the answer. It's so great not to always know the answer.
It is. So these are wonderful. This concept of creative literacy is very exciting. And I think when we put it in those terms, for some reason, people sort of latch onto that, right? A little bit.
Very quick.
Because we're giving it.
People say, well, how long does it take to get creative? I said, well, 10 hours, and you won't forget it. I said, why won't you forget it? I say, because you already know it. When were you a creative genius is what I ask every adult. And they said, I was never a creative genius. And I said, think again. When you were a child, I know we try to organize our children every single second so they learn everything they need to know. But I have to tell you that a lot of the things that they learn and the things that are the most unique about them is what they learn on their own, what they learn when they're free playing, what they're...
Yeah, this idea of sort of losing that, right, as an adult, losing our ability to play, to explore, it's really a difficult thing, because we're really going to actually need that even more in sort of the future that we're facing. So what do you think really needs to be included, if anything else, in education today to ensure that we're fostering that creativity and imagination in students, right, that will benefit them now and in the future, aside from the fact that we as teachers need to explore our creativity? What can we do to really foster imagination in the children that we teach?
Well, very, very hands-on. I'm a big believer in writing without thinking and drawing automatically, meaning making a series of scribbles visually, and then having an eraser and your pencil. And as you make all these scribbles, you can find things inside those scribbles, find the objects that are there. And you do it using an eraser, and you do it shading and accentuating what you've left after erasure. Why do I think that that's one of the best ways to foster creativity? Because it's showing a person that you don't have to impose ideas. You have to bring them out from where they are.
Yeah, that ability to have that freedom of expression, to use a phrase, sort of outside of the box, right? The rigidity of those boxes that we place students in.
But organically we have it. I mean, I think bringing forth, and this thing about automatic drawing also relates to writing without thinking first. And then what we're teaching teachers to do is get out a whole lot of ideas without thinking. Because your subconscious is not unconscious. It's sort of like the great bubbling inner core of the world. It's very similar, and it's moving, and but it's not on the tip of the surface. We live on the crust of the earth, but we can only live there because of what's going on underneath. When we do free writing and free drawing, we're letting the tip of our tongue and the depth of all the thinking that's going on that's not quite solidified, they meet. There's like a little tube that we allow, and that little tube comes from a hand, a piece of paper, and a pencil. Now, why that works may have something to do with how many years Homo sapiens have been using their hands to make things, which is very different than doing this. And it's very different than punching things. It's something about this is leading me to one of the other things, is that I would bring back allowing and encouraging people to make things, to use their hands. Because neurologists are telling us now that a certain kind of thinking comes into play when we actually use these and this.
Yes, there's quite a different, there's a different element, isn't there, to sort of using the mind-hand connection. That ability to create with our hands is a very different way of thinking about the world. You're really doing thinking about the world when you're using your hands as well. You're feeling, you're exploring. It's really, really so exciting. So when you think, Shelley, about is it really possible for everyone to unlock their creative potential? And if so, how might the world be different if we all embraced creativity? It's a big question.
Well, first of all, it's a great comfort. Everyone should feel comforted by the fact that they were once children and they had it. And all they have to remember is all the stories they made up and all the worlds they created with sticks and stones, and all the things they imagined. So that would be number one. That's a great comfort, because it's not like you're starting from nothing. It's not learning how to draw a good picture or to write a brilliant poem. Those are byproducts of this amazing part of being human. And it's taken away from us in most of our education. As soon as we have a new idea and it's not finished, there's, oh no, that's been done before, it didn't work. Or even your peers, they laugh at you. Yeah. Instead of saying, okay, I'm going to do the next step of that. What if we take it this way? What if we try this? Oh my God, it didn't work. But if we said that things that don't work aren't useful, then we wouldn't have Einstein, we wouldn't have Jonas Salk and Jonas Salk and polio vaccine.
Exactly.
We wouldn't have Jane Goodall out there with the chimpanzees. The real great changes that come in the world come from people taking leaps of knowledge and saying, and being tenaciously curious. Beckett, when he received the Nobel Prize in Literature, he was asked, well, what's the secret of your creativity, how you changed how we think about language and how we think about life? He said, fail again, fail better. It's a three-part sentence, and it's not just you fail and then you give up. It's you fail, you do it again, and then you do it better with all the knowledge that you've taken. And I want to keep emphasizing that this doesn't mean changing all of education. This means 20 minutes a day, prompts, a series of prompts that can sit in a fishbowl in the classroom. And they can be everything from, today you are a unicorn. What do you think about mathematics and how do you do it? There are 2 chairs sitting in the room. Other people might not see it, but they're in love. Please describe. Whatever. Or if they're doing certain science experiments, make it work with the science. They don't have to be irrelevant to what people are doing at hand, but they have to be fun. And the teachers have to have fun. There's a lot of lack of respect for teachers' instinct, teachers knowing what a class needs. And they're always being taught new ways to teach new things, which is fine. But unless they can also meet it with their accumulated knowledge, they're not going to understand it in any way that they can then teach it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're not going to reach the students. I challenge anyone to think about the students, the teachers that they had who changed their lives. They do not remember what they taught them. They remember how they made them feel about their ability to be somebody in the world.
And I think that's it's such an important point. I love the idea of that this doesn't take a lot of time. And you can have a fishbowl of ideas for children to explore throughout the day or through a certain sort of 20-minute period where you're allowing them to think creatively, and of course blending that into some of the activities that then are having to happen in the classroom through curriculum is wonderful as well. But this whole idea of the fact that this is something that we can all do. We can explore if we give this just a little bit of time, and then it becomes maybe even more part of our daily routine as well. So it's really exciting to think about this. And what would you if you were to give people sort of a couple of pieces of advice around how our participants themselves can unlock their creative sides, how can they start doing that?
Well, one of the things I wanted to let everybody know about is they can, in addition to all that we actually have like a booklet called Jumpstart Your Creativity in 15 minutes a day. And they can contact questions at creativityworkshop.com and ask to have it emailed to them. And it's just a bunch of prompts. It's 30, 40 pages of different kinds of prompts and an introduction to that. So that's really helpful. Also, if they go to our site, creativityworkshop.com, they scroll to creativity articles. There's one which is about creativity in everyday life, and that has a lot of prompts on it. They can also do guided visualizations, and we have on our site, or you may have to ask for that one, how to do that.
Okay.
all sorts of things like that. They can write to us and ask for this information. But getting to something where they don't have to ask us, I would say that they need to believe their creators, number one. And anybody that's taught a difficult child, I mean, by difficult, I mean someone that no one can teach, but they found a way. That teacher used their creativity to do it. I'm sorry, that's the only way you get there. That's number one, believe in it. Find things that make you excited about it. Like for some people, it's being in the garden and watching something grow and making it grow. That's creativity. It's not just the soil and the plant and the perfection. It doesn't work that way. You know, they really are saying now that if you talk to plants, it helps them grow. And they're proving it. They're proving it with studies. I don't know if it's the sounds, whatever it is. That's part of creativity. Find like-minded people who also believe that imagination is worth exploring. Why are so many kids learning from the Harry Potter books? Because they're so full of imagination. They're full of imagination and the belief that if we use our imagination, we use our magic, we can change the world.
There you go. So that's probably a wonderful way for us to wrap up the session. So we're challenging all our participants to unlock their creative potential, find that group of like-minded people, delve into the resources that Shelley and Creativity Workshop offer.
And one more thing.
Yes.
Use all their senses. When you go out, imagine you have hundreds of eyes all over your body, that you have the most amazing hearing in the world. Look, taste, listen, touch.
Which is something else we don't do enough of. Our senses have become a bit dulled, I think, in this world that we live in. So
they're primary to imagination.
Understanding how using those senses can be so powerful to really getting to that root of creativity for us all. So Shelley, this has been a wonderful conversation. We appreciate you being with us so very much. It's been lovely to have you with us, to have you share your ideas, and I just hope all the participants will certainly be encouraged and invigorated by this conversation. So we appreciate you being with us, Shelley. And we hope everybody will watch this who's participating in our Breakthroughs in Education event. Thank you so much.
Thank you.